Welcome to The Explainer. Today we've got a story for you about high-flying success and catastrophic failure. It's a tale of national pride, massive ambition, and ultimately a spectacular fall from grace in the airline industry.
So how does that even happen? How does an airline that's a symbol for an entire nation just fall apart? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into by looking at the dramatic stories of three iconic airlines from South Asia. And their journeys, let me tell you, they reveal some pretty startling truths about what it takes to stay airborne in this business.
So here's how we'll break it down. We're going to start with the tragic fall of a global trendsetter, Pakistan International Airlines. Then we'll follow the incredible roller coaster journey of Air India. After that, we'll look at the scandalous collapse of a private airline, Shaheen Air. And finally, we'll pull it all together to see what lessons we can learn from the wreckage.
First up, Pakistan International Airlines, or PIA. And you really can't overstate what a giant this airline once was. This isn't just a story about decline. This is the story of an airline that literally taught the world how to fly.
Back in its heyday, PIA was a true pioneer. It was so respected that when Dubai decided it wanted to start its own airline, guess who they called? PIA. That's right, PIA helped create what would become one of its biggest competitors, Emirates, by leasing them their first planes and training their staff. Think about that.
And this really shows you, PIA wasn't just following trends, it was setting them. The first Asian airline with a jet plane, the first airline anywhere to show movies on board. They even trained pilots for Singapore Airlines. This was the absolute gold standard for luxury and service.
But, golden ages, they don't always last. The airlines started to get weighed down, not by outside competition, but by problems brewing from within. Political interference and massive overstaffing began to turn this sleek pioneer into a bloated, inefficient machine.
And here's where it gets really staggering. A report suggested that a whopping 70% of the staff were hired not for their skills, but as political favors. This, as you can imagine, led to corruption, inefficiency, and a culture where your connections mattered more than your competence.
The real breaking point, though, came after a tragic crash in 2020. The investigation uncovered something horrifying, that nearly 40% of Pakistani pilot licenses were invalid. Can you imagine? That bombshell just obliterated their international reputation pretty much overnight, leading to bans from Europe and the US.
And this table just perfectly illustrates the financial disaster. The airline was sold for 135 billion rupees. But here's the crazy part. After covering its immediate liabilities, the government got just 1 billion back. The other 800 billion in debt? Just put on hold. It was basically a fire sale for what was once a national treasure.
All right, let's shift gears to our next story, Air India. This one follows a really different path. Unlike PIA's tragic downfall, this is more of a tale of rescue and rebirth.
Air India's journey is this amazing full circle. It started as a private airline, was taken over by the government to become a symbol of the nation, was nearly run into the ground, and then, in this incredible twist, it was bought back by the very family that started it all.
And the contrast is just stark. In its early days under the Tata family, it was so luxurious that passengers were served meals on silver platters. But fast forward to its time under state control, especially after a disastrous merger in 2007, it was bleeding cash, losing something like $3 million every single day. It got so bad that when the government tried to sell off a huge chunk of the airline, you know what they got? Crickets. Zero interest. Nobody wanted to touch an airline buried under that much debt and chaos. It was a really embarrassing moment for the once proud carrier.
But then, just when it seemed like it was all over, who steps in? Its original creators, the Tata Group. They put in a winning bid over $2 billion to rescue the airline they had founded almost 90 years earlier, bringing the entire story full circle.
Okay, for our last story, we have Shaheen Air. And folks, this one's different. This isn't a story of a slow, painful decline. This is about a private airline whose collapse was fast, scandalous, and allegedly completely intentional.
This airline just exploded onto the scene. By offering really low fares on popular routes, it became the dominant player, capturing a staggering 80% of the country's private airline market. For a while there, it seemed like nothing could stop them. So what went wrong? Well, the allegations here are just wow. This sounds less like a business collapse and more like a planned heist.
The owners were accused of collecting taxes from passengers and just not paying the government, then allegedly siphoning off revenue, abandoning their staff without pay, and finally fleeing the country.
And the damage they left behind? A massive hole of about 18 billion rupees, or around 200 million US dollars, in unpaid taxes, fuel bills, you name it. With the owners gone, the dream of Shaheen Air was grounded for good.
Okay, so after all that, what's the takeaway? What can we possibly learn from all this wreckage? What are the common threads that tie these wild stories together?
Well, when you line these three stories up, you start to see this really clear and kind of devastating pattern. Whether they were state-owned or private, the root problems were shockingly similar. Political interference led to bloated, inefficient companies. That inefficiency then opened the door for corruption and just plain bad management. And eventually, they all lost the one thing an airline absolutely cannot survive without: public trust.
And that really leaves us with this one big question, doesn't it? Whether it's a symbol of national pride like PIA and Air India, or a private company like Shaheen Air, it seems like the success or failure of an airline comes down to one thing: the integrity of the people in the cockpit. Because without the right guardians at the controls, it seems even the greatest giants of the sky are destined to fall.